Well, hey, Internet. This is Steve, 1,000 Year Home. Finally, my little bedroom section of my tiny home is entering a new phase, the electrical conduit. So all of the posts are in, all of the insulation in, the roof rafters are in. I just need the tie-ins for it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull some conduit and move on to the electrical. So I've got everything I need. There's a conduit cutter that I'll be using. And to make life easy for me, remember each section here is 48 inches between all the posts. So I know to put a light, an outlet every place. The lights will be at my discretion. That little box there probably is more than 12 inches, but I'm honestly thinking above there of doing theater lighting or using a little, a little 12 volt bulb in there and LED color changing. I'm not sure yet. But the other thing is when I drill in from the outside, the way my electrical is right up against the wall, I have to drill through the sill plate. So I use these step drills for that, right? I pop a hole in it and then I enlarge it until it's big enough to hold the conduit. So on the conduit, I know just because of the size of my connects, just put a receptacle every 48 inches, right? And mine, some of them will be a little smaller, some of them will be a little bigger. Where the bathroom sink is, I need a receptacle right there. I'm going to put in two. I'm going to put in two. So I could charge my shaver and everything. And if I have a guest come over, she can blow dry her hair, take care of all of her stuff on a receptacle where she doesn't have to unplug my stuff, right? So two on that. In addition, it'll go up and it'll feed the chandelier, which I'll wire in. So with conduit, how do I know where to drill in and bring something in? One, I put a new feed in every time there's a 20 amp spot, and I like to put a 20 amp underneath anything that I might think has a window air conditioning unit if there's ever an emergency. Now I'll be using mini splits, so I doubt I'll need that. In addition, even with this insulation, this thing's maintaining a better temperature than outside. How about that? Even without heating and cooling yet. So I'm on the right track. So I put one in because you can't ever have more than 360 degrees worth of bends, which is what? 490s. And that includes even the little bends to go up into a box, right? Because if you go more than 4 bends, you physically can't pull cable through that. It has a resistance inside against the insulation, and as you pull through all of those bends, you're braiding it, and you'll end up stretching the insulation, breaking it, and then your wire will touch the conduit, and you'll get arcing. So, these rules that are not rules just because there's actually real physics behind the rules. So, every time I get close to 360. Without a pull-out, I just drill and pop a new pipe down underneath, which will go to wire runs underneath my basement. And I'm using conduit inside the house for a couple of reasons. One, everybody does the flush not everybody. Most builders use a flush profile with your studs, and then you run your electric through that. Well, that's only 1.5 inches thick. That's not the 3 inches. So those people that are pulling the cable, the plastic sleeve, residential stuff, I don't agree with that. I think that's close enough to stick a screw through it. To counteract that, I will use conduit, but in addition, wherever there's a post, I'll either double up I'll cut a piece of conduit and I'll roll it in behind that post if there's room. So there'll be 2 layers of conduit there to keep somebody from drilling through a post and popping a hole through the wire still. Now, in a few places, I'm going to be real close to that 360 pole, but as long as I have a light switch or something where I can pull a bunch of wire through, redo it, and feed it back up in, I feel comfortable with that. Now, where I'm at, I do not require a licensed electrician. I'm also using my own money to build this house, so I'm not behooved to a bank or insurance company or anybody like that. I'm still, if I feel like I'm getting in over my head, I will contact a licensed electrician in a heartbeat. But listen, there's 3 zones in here, right? There's the front office, which will have my computers and whatnot, thus the 20 amp. Most of the other ones will be 15 amp. I'll get into the bathroom. Everything there will be 20 amp ground fault. I'm not going to make the whole house ground fault, because why would I do that? Then if you have a device that's not quite right, you're tripping the ground faults all the time, yada, yada, yada. I'll go back to conventional circuits where they belong, and I'll keep ground fault where it's belong, and AFCI where it belongs, and then the solar will be separated with its own power. So I'm only talking about residential wiring, which is the new phase. I'm so excited. And then I have the ceiling lights and fans, which I'll install. And so the very design of this Connex makes me already mostly compliant with every post within 48 inches. I know that there'll be a wall socket everywhere. It's within 12 or 16 inches. I forget, maybe 3 foot of a sink. I think it's 3 foot of a sink. And so that's why where the countertop is, I'll have 2 there. The little closet space inside of the, the custom-built shelving, debating on that. If I'm going to put a permanent light in there, if I'll just put pop lights that I can control. But at the least, I think I'll put a outlet up there so I can plug into it no matter what I choose. So I'll put an outlet there. Those kind of decisions I'm making on the fly. Because this is a 8 foot by 40 foot straight box. The decisions are made for me by the relevant design. I'm matching code, so if whoever comes here next will be okay. I can mix 20 amp and 15 amp, 14 gauge, and 12 gauge in the wire. I just can't exceed the capacity. So I'll be all fine there. In other words, it can't be on the same circuit. So obviously, but I could put 15 amp receptacles on a 20 amp circuit, and I've thought about that. But really, why overpower? Why give the opportunity to overpower a breaker? That doesn't make sense. So 15 amp will be 15 amp, and 20 amp will be 20 amp, and I won't mix the 2. Ground fault will be ground fault. So 3 zones, 3 different kinds of wiring. Effectively, if I include ground fault as its own deal. And all of this will tie in for now into my F-150. And then once I'm ready, I'll move my solar up and get it prepared and wire the solar in. So super excited about all that. But new phase. So I've got all the tools I need. I've got the conduit. I've got the drill. It's nothing but hard work from here. It's drilling and more drilling. And then pulling the conduit and putting the connectors on. All right, so in addition to the conduit, then I have several different kinds of boxes. So that's for ceiling fans. I've got the clearance for it, and it's a standard opening for ceiling fans to fit in there. I have flush mount, low reciprocal light switch boxes or 2 outlet boxes. Either way would work for that. Some of my lights maybe could be single throw, but I think most of them will have 2. So the, I have different connectors. I have true 90s that I could put in a corner if I wanted to, and they do open up here, clamshell, so I could feed in, pull it through, and then put it back, and that's for a true 90. In tight quarters, I'll use those. Normally, I do a bend with my pipe bender. I'm not real good with this, so go online and find other real electricians, professional electricians. I bend it, I stick it in and I bend it from the star to the angle, and I get it, right? But, it's always a labor of love for me. Where other guys, it's just a matter of muscle memory. So there's guys and gals that can show you how to do that. What else do I have in my little bag of goodies? Oh, the regular connectors. Listen, don't just pull wire through a box and not put in the appropriate grommets and connectors on there, because that wire down through the years, the vibration of the earth, it will saw right through those boxes and short out. And indeed, many people have found and gotten hurt on that. So put the appropriate connectors in. Plus, I want my conduit to be a ground all the way through. I don't want a loose, choppy ground, because I'm going to be anchoring the ground to the conduit. As you should too. And then I've got, so you saw the true 90s, but then you see that I have these offsets so I don't have to make a silly little angle. I could simply, when I get to the box, I can leave the last, I don't have to bend it to fit the box. Now, I'm sure a professional wouldn't spend the extra dough for these, but, if you have to have the connector anyway, why not get the connector that has the bend that will pick it up off the wall and connect in? So I've got those. Let's see if that covers everything. I'm not talking wiring yet and how to pull wiring. I'm just talking about pulling the conduit and setting the conduit in. I have the drills and various drills that I'll use to pop through the boards. And then I believe I bought everything that I need to wire the house. I've got the cable runs, and that will be a different video on a different day. But if not, there is a local lumberyard that's about 15 miles away. They have all kinds of stuff. And the farm implement store, feed and grain store, has a bunch of electrical stuff too. So, and it's all conduit based. People to wire their garages and barns, right? Let's see if that was everything in here. I believe it was. My 90s. I have a couple of straight ½ inches too, just to make up for things. A whole plethora of doodads. In this box, I've got another box of tools. Let's see. These are. I didn't even open them up yet. But in this build, I'm not using some of my old, ratty. I bought new tools so that I could just get the job done without worrying about the problems of an old, worn-out tool. All right. So anyway, let me look at this real quick and see if there's anything interesting for conduit. Oh, I found a couple of magic boxes still in there. So couple more outlet box, and then a double outlet or a double switch box. Anything else in here? No, the rest of the doodads, like that would be my disconnect for solar, cables for that, solar communication cables. I did buy a little bit of Romex. I'm using cable everywhere, but originally all these will circuits before I put them into a panel. I'm going to put pigtails on them instead and test each circuit that way through my truck and my generator. So I might even run that way for a little bit while I'm doing drywall and getting this around. But eventually I have to put in a solar-based power panel, which I'll do. So I do have some Romex, so I can pirate some Romex. Again, that's another video for another day. What other doodads do I have here? That little wire stripper, a real quick wire stripper for cable, Jakarta. And then good brand new wire snippers. Basically I spent some money on the tools because when I'm done with this, maybe I'll build a couple more houses. I don't know. What does this say it is? Oh, this is for my ferrules. So I've got a little tool and ferrules for making the latest connections. So I can make my own ferrules and do my own wire work there. So that'll come in handy. Again, another day. All right. So without further ado, now it's just drilling and doing and measuring, right? I eyeball a bend. I eyeball a bend. I bend it and I make it work, and I'm pretty good at it. It's not rocket science. I am a true believer that most things will tell you how to put them together if you look at them closely and think about them. People ask me, Steve, how do you know this or how do you know that? And a lot of it comes, I do read. I like to read trade journals. I enjoy that. So I'm a little dry personality. But in addition, if you look at something and study it, almost everything that people have done, whether it's a color coding or the way they do a bend, there's a reason and a purpose. And if you think about that purpose, then it'll tell you how to build something like a shipping container home. I believe anybody can build one of these with enough moxie. And the understanding that you're facing problems right from the start, right? They're not dropping off a house. It's not like buying a house. You're building a house. But I'm going to guess that I'm going to build a $300,000 or $400,000 house for $80,000. That includes my off-grid solar, my off-grid septic system, my gray water, everything. The power poles alone, to pull the power pole alone, would have been $47,000. To use the municipal water, which comes in brown, you got to accept it brown, from Aqua, it was $5,200 for them to do the survey and pull it to the edge of my property, not bring it all the way down. Well, when you look at that, then suddenly, you could maybe drill your own well and put good filtration on it. If I got to have bad water, maybe I could use reverse osmosis. If you got enough solar like me in a sunny state and I could get enough batteries, sky's the limit. I'm going to I'm going to use a conventional water heater, just step down the filaments, right? And that conventional water heater will act like a solar tank. I'll put its own solar panel on it. I'll put its own controller on it, and that thing will charge up water. I'm just a single person out here, and two people could do the same thing. A conventional water heater, step down the filaments a little bit, or if you want to pay for gas, you could go get gas, but solar's free. And then they make controller cards. I've seen several of the controller cards for that everything plugs in, almost plug and play. And I bet you by the time I go to build that hot water tank here in the next, let's say, 3 months, that it will be plug and play. That's how fast the environment's moving. Anyway, save a lot of money or buy it and have it already ready. That's your choice. This is an investment of 9 months of my life already to get to this point. I could have gotten farther. It's already late in the evening. You can see the sun is hitting me. So I worked my full 8 hours today, and now I'm working in the evening for the conduit. I'll work until sundown, probably just do a layout, pop some holes. Takes a long time to drill through this core 10. And since I'm drilling through the sill plates on the edge, they're thicker, and it's harder to get through. So I really got to get into them. And I'm tired after drilling 4 or 5 of those bad boys, to be honest. So, and I need at least 3, maybe 4. Again, going back to the rule of how many bends I can put in the conduit. That's where I'm deciding where I'm going to pop down and drop into a wire cable run for catwalk, if you will, for cables underneath the house. And that's how a 1,000-year house, obviously the wiring won't last 1,000 years. It might last 200. I might get you 20% of the way there. But if I use conduit, the next person can come along and plug in whatever is in there. I always say they could pour neurons into the pipe, right? I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe each device will come with a lifetime battery, and you'll put in a stove and it'll have all the power it needs with the stove, and the power packs will be in it. I don't know. Who knows? Hydrogen, water. You add water in the top. I don't know that. But nonetheless, the conduit would let you pull out conventional wires in 75, 100 years, however long it takes for it to wear out, and put new wires in quite easily. So, and at the end of this, when I talk about a 1,000-year home, I will go through all of the major components of the house, the windows, the walls, the doors, what I believe is the maintenance update, and how long you can expect something to reasonably last. And plastic lasts 500 years, so plastic wrap stuff. Copper, you might get 500 years out of wiring. I don't know. It just feels like it would get brittle and get dangerous at that point. But maybe the modern PTFE stuff will last that long. But nevertheless, I'm still engineering it to last that for easy repair. So all of those major components we'll talk about. But the walls, the ceilings, the doors, the window, all of the major. I'm expecting this house to last 1,000 years, way outlasting me until my name is forgotten and the new owners can go ahead and use it. So conduit today, and then wiring. Then I have to do insulation, drywall, etc., etc. But let's get the conduit in and try to get it done this week. Okay, so this spot on the wall, this will be where I'll pass my conduit down through the sill plate, and that's a lot of drilling. And then I'll come up to an outlet, and then I'll go to a light switch. The light switch will run to a ceiling fan combo, and When I pass over there, I'll run another electrical box off of it to that side. So what I'm going to accomplish right now is drilling one of these out so you can see how difficult that is. Let me set you up. Alright, so I have found that I can drill through those and it'll be just fine, but I can't drill through those where it hits a joist, and I see right there's a joist. So they made the end very, very strong by putting them, oh gosh, maybe 8 inches apart. So I'm going to offset this just a smidgen so that I don't have to fight the both the sill plate here as well as the cross supports there. I'm going to put it right there. So we'll put a little mark there. I don't normally do that, but we'll put a little mark. Let's scratch it. I'll scratch it in. Scratch. Scratch. Alright, that looks good to me. Let's hope I hit on first drill. Alright, so you can see right here that I'm planning to put in a conduit which will run up to an outlet, and I just usually use a hammer for the distance on the outlet, so they're all the same hammer, and then from here it'll run up to a light switch, and the light switch will go to the ceiling fan. I might do a double pole on that one because maybe it'll control the outside lights as well, because this is the camera is actually outside of the house, and it's where a door will be. So when I drill these, this is hard enough to drill through, but when I drill them, I can't also add in the cross joists, right? The floor joists that are metal. So then I'd be, a metal post here and a metal there. It's super hard. So I'm going to move it over a little bit. I'm going to put it right there maybe. And away I go. Somewhere in between breaking this drill bit and getting through. Alright, let's see how I feel. And it's a lot thicker than just the wall steel, right? I mean, a lot thicker. Come on. All right. So I can see clear through. I could see through. So I know this is an okay spot for me to put in a conduit. So then I just use those stepper bits and I step it up until I can fit a conduit through it. And again, I don't sharpen these. I just get new ones. So let's see if this one's big enough. All right. So you see what I'm after? I'm going to go with the right to the last one, and that should be big enough for that conduit to sit through. I hope the sun's not too bright. This video is just oversaturated. All right. Okay, next step. Let's step through this metal. That's it, huh? She wrote. Let's see if this battery is conking out. Yeah, blinky one. All right, new battery. See how close we are with that. And I do have adapters for the, see, I'm getting close. Alrighty. Sometimes I have to go under the house in order to pop all the way through everything. Ouch. All right, real close. That's real close. Ouch. can't go up to the next size stepper. And I just buy new ones when I wear them out like that. Oh, I'm so close. So close. I don't want you to think that these batteries are burning out that fast on this drill. They're not. I've had a storm for, oh gosh, a week. And I haven't got them on the charger because my charger solar wasn't picking anything up, and I was saving just in case I needed it, saving the solar batteries. All right. So I've been using these drill bits all week long. So I've got 30 or 40 punch throughs of metal on these before they've got exhausted. Come on. You can do it. I got faith. All right. That's going to be big enough. All right, there you go. Ta-da! Then I plug those because I don't want little critters coming through while I'm doing this work. So that's all it is, and then I cut it off where it needs to be cut off and bend it and run it. So, whoo! And you saw all that work, so let me get the batteries charged up. I'm already losing sun, so I'll get out the cobalt cutter and I'll cut that to the right length, and then I'll put it back in. In fact, let's do that. That'll be a fun thing to do. So I stuck it through the house, right, and I know I'll put a little turn on it, or I'll do something later on to this end before I pull the wires. But for now, I'm going to say this plus 12 inches is what I want to cut. And I'll just use this little cobalt, which is a Lowe's tool. Obviously, I got this. It's their name brand, so pretty highly rated. And I'll cut that in front of you. Anyway, you just take the little tool. It's not... and you put it where you need it to be, and you tighten it down, and you turn it. And then when it cuts through once, you tighten. I'm twisting it here, and I'm tightening it a little bit, and you turn it. And I'm holding it with one hand. I don't have it clamped in. Normally you'd have, something on the other end, and you turn it, and you keep going. I'm rotating every time I go around 360. I turn the handle a little bit, and it ends up biting all the way through. Oh, I turned it too much there. All right. And see, it's scoring a line in there. You see the line as the blade's coming through? Oh, I did it off camera. No joy for you. That's very unsatisfactory, Steve. I'm going to see on my stats, and right then everybody's going to drop off. But anyway, I just kept cranking it and turning it, cranking it, turning it. And then this little doodad here is not a tail. It's used. See, there's little metal filings there. They will cut your lines. So you take this gizmo and I even use a drill, right? You do that. Make sure your finger doesn't get caught. That's all I'm doing. I'm getting rid of the little thing, and then I do have a polished stone on a drill, and I go, and then I'm done. All right, so there's my little piece of about 24 inches is what it is. 12 inches will stick through, and 12 inches will stick up, and then there'll be a junction box on it. All of my power boxes, all right, even though I don't measure, they're all the same height. Visually, anything that's wrong to my eye, I fix. So I want to be careful with saying I don't measure. I do. You've seen me measure a few times. But I do run, I have a Bosch laser level that I run from time to time. And then things like this, I get a template, and I say, whatever I started with on the one outlet, that's my master template. All the other outlets are that height, unless it's a countertop or there's a reason. So anyway, I'm back to installing it over here. So I'm going to put the foil back and sweep out the metal shavings. And well, you know, the drilling of it's not you know, that hard. It's not that easy. So it's a thing of physicality. So how many of those can I do at a time? You saw the batteries were wearing out. So let's sweep that up and get these through. Because I'm going to be putting drywall on, right? I won't want the screw sticking straight out. I want it to be turned so the drywall's, you know, not impacting that in any way, shape, or form. So I know I'm coming through the top and bottom on this one. It's pretty easy, so I'll knock those out. I'll put in the appropriate connectors on each side and pull it up to the light switch part of it. So, you know, all the little things in a house like this, people don't really, you don't appreciate the person that went before you. You know, we're not built that way to think about the person who went before you and built all that. And that's one of the fun things about building your own house, you know, that as you build it, you get not just the satisfaction of building it, but you get to appreciate, you know, the complexities of it. You know, I believe in like music appreciation and art appreciation, even if you're not an artist. Simply so when you do go and see a real a professional, you can appreciate how good they are at it and what that sacrifice of time and talent meant. So then I'll rough it all in like that, and eventually when before the drywall, when the furring strips come in, I'll put the furring strips in and help anchor those. I'll tie them off where they need to be. So and away I'll go, and those will be behind the furring strips, so I know that they'll be 1.5 inches deep in the wall, which is where I want them.